Hello, this is Sky. You're hearing my own voice, and I'll be here with you until sleep. You don't need to listen closely. You can drift off whenever you like. There's nothing to get right tonight. For now, just let yourself be held by the sound of my voice. Let's begin. If this podcast has been keeping you company at night and you'd like to support me directly, membership is a beautiful way to do that. It includes ad-free listening and exclusive sleep stories, and it helps me continue sharing these calm little spaces with you. The link is in the description. This evening, I'd like to invite you somewhere old and quiet, somewhere a little mysterious, in the way old places can be. Not because anything is hidden, but because so much has simply been lived. A place where life moves slowly, where the gentle rhythm of the seasons seems to have left its trace in the walls, in the wood, in the stone itself, and where things are allowed to remain as they are, without needing to change quickly. And perhaps as we begin to imagine this place together, there is no need to arrive there fully. It might be enough just to sense the possibility of it, like something at the edge of awareness. A manor house, somewhere set back from the road, held by old trees that have grown in their own time, without hurry. And perhaps we're not rushing toward it. Perhaps we're just noticing the idea of walking toward it in a way that already begins to slow something down. There might be the sense of ground beneath feet, not needing to be described too clearly. Just the simple awareness of moving through space. And maybe the air here has a particular quality, not different in any dramatic way, just slightly cooler than the places we've come from, carrying that early evening feeling where the day is beginning to loosen its grip. You might notice that without trying to notice it. Just a soft impression. And as we come closer, the manor begins to appear in its own time, not suddenly, more like it is allowing itself to be seen. Stone that has darkened gently with age and weather. Windows that hold a kind of quiet reflection of the sky. Nothing announcing itself, just presence, and perhaps something in the body registers that presence before the mind does. A sense of steadiness, noticing that steadiness. And we don't need to interpret it, just noticing it is there. There are trees nearby, old ones, not in any hurry to grow or to prove anything now. And maybe there's a sense of how they simply stand, belonging exactly where they are, the way trees do when they've had a long time to be trees. And as we move closer still, there might be small details that gently come forward. The unevenness of stone underfoot, the way the air carries a faint mix of damp earth and something older, maybe wood, maybe leaves that have settled and returned to the ground over time. You don't have to name it clearly. just letting it be sensed. And there is the building now, the manor, held in its own kind of quietness, not performing anything, just existing. And perhaps we pause here for a moment before going any further, not because anything needs to be prepared, but because the body sometimes arrives a little before the rest of us do. And there might be something about allowing that to catch up. A moment of simply being here, outside, at the threshold, noticing the weight of standing still, noticing what happens when nothing is required next. And in that pause, we might begin to sense the doorway, the entrance, not as an action yet, just as a possibility that is already there. And perhaps the hand finds the door in its own time, the texture of it, old wood, slight variations in surface where time and touch have left their marks. And there may be a very simple noticing as it opens, the shift from outside air to inside air, a subtle change in temperature, a subtle change in sound, almost as if the world becomes slightly more contained, not smaller, just held. And we don't need to rush into naming what is inside yet, just allowing the threshold to be felt, the sense of moving from one kind of quiet into another. And maybe for a moment, we simply stand there, not yet choosing where to go, just letting the next movement arise on its own. And so, from that threshold, there may be the simple movement of stepping inside, not in a hurried way, more like allowing yourself to be here now, inside the house, inside a different kind of air. You might notice the way sound changes slightly as the door settles behind us. The soft reduction of the outside world. Not silence exactly, but quieter layer of it. And perhaps the body registers that shift in its own way, almost as if something loosens by a small degree. We don't need to decide what that means. Just noticing. The entrance hall is not demanding attention. It is simply there, held in a kind of stillness that has accumulated over time. Wood that has darkened gently with age. Stone that holds warmth from earlier in the day. And there might be a sense that nothing here is trying to be seen, which somehow makes it easier to see. We might notice the way light rests rather than spreads, how it sits in certain corners as if it has chosen where to be. And we're not in a rush to follow it. We can just let it be there. And perhaps, without needing to decide anything, there is a sense of turning slightly or being drawn toward a deeper part of the house. Not because it is important, but because it is there. And so we find ourselves moving again, noticing the feeling of walking across an old floor. The way each step is received differently, depending on where weight is placed. Some boards quieter than others, some holding a faint memory of sound. And ahead, there is a warmth, a kind of gentle glow that does not announce itself loudly. Just a suggestion of firelight. And as we come closer, we might begin to sense the library before we see fully. That particular feeling of a room filled with paper, leather, time, books that have been here longer than any single moment we can name. And then the doorway, open enough, not inviting in a spoken way, just available. And we don't need to enter immediately. There might be a pause here, a small noticing of standing at the edge of another space. That simple sense of before and after. And if anything in you softens at that threshold, we can simply notice that too. No need to change it, just noticing. And then, when ready, in its own time, stepping into the library. The air here feels different again, warmer, still, carrying the scent of old paper, wood, something faintly resinous from polish or time itself. You might notice how scent can hold memory even when nothing is being remembered clearly. Just impressions, layers, and the room itself is large, though not overwhelming. Shelves rising and holding themselves in quiet order. Books arranged not for display, but for staying. And perhaps there is something about that which the body recognizes. The feeling of things that are not going anywhere. We might stand for a moment without choosing where to sit or what to approach, just allowing the room to be seen in fragments. A shelf, a chair, a low table near a window where the evening light is thinning, and a fireplace where embers may still be holding a faint red presence, not active, just present. And in that presence, there is no demand, only atmosphere. And perhaps we notice how easy it is for attention to move gently from one thing to another, not grasping, just drifting. From the grain of wood in a table leg to the curve of a chair arm, to the slight unevenness in the glass of a window. Small things, quiet things, nothing needing interpretation. And somewhere in this drifting attention, there might be the sense that this room has held many such evenings, many quiet arrivals, many people who have sat here without needing to speak. And that sense does not ask us to imagine them clearly, only to feel the continuity of time. And perhaps, before anything else changes, there is just a moment of stillness with the library as it is now. The feeling of having just placed the book back. The quiet after that small action. And maybe you notice how the room does not react. It simply continues being the library. Shelves holding their weight. Firelight resting in its own way. Air moving very slightly, almost imperceptibly through the space. And there might be something about that which is quietly settling in the body. Not a thought, more like a recognition that nothing here requires continuation. And yet, we are still here. And so perhaps there's no need to leave the book yet. We might simply stand near the shelf again, not to do anything with it, just to be near it. And you might notice how attention behaves when nothing is being asked of it. It doesn't disappear. It softens. It moves in small, gentle arcs. From shelf to wood grain to the faint warmth of the room to the quiet sense of standing. And then, almost without deciding, The book is there again in awareness, still resting where it was placed, still holding whatever it holds. And perhaps we take it down again. Or perhaps it feels as if it opens itself again in memory. Either way, there is no urgency in it, just returning. The cover has that same softened leather feel. Not new, not fragile either, just lived. And there is a moment before opening it, a very ordinary moment, where nothing is yet revealed. And that moment can be allowed to stretch slightly, just by not moving on too quickly. You might notice your hands here, or imagine them. The weight of holding something that has been held by others before. The way objects can carry that sense of being passed through time without needing explanation. And then, slowly, opening again. The sound is small, almost not a sound at all, just a shift. And we are with the beginning pages, the same pages we've already seen. But now, we're not moving forward, we're staying. We're letting one page be enough for a while. The pressed lavender page. Let's stay here, noticing it again. The way it lies flat against the paper. The way its color has softened into something closer to gray rather than purple now. And perhaps there is something about that fading that doesn't feel like loss. More like transformation that doesn't need to be understood, just observed. And if you notice your attention wanting to move on, that's fine too. We can come back to the same small piece of lavender, just resting there, pressed into time. And perhaps, as you stay with it a little longer, there is a sense of the page around it, the texture of the paper, the slight unevenness where the plant has created a small raised shape. And you might even imagine the moment it was placed there. A hand pausing, a quiet decision that didn't feel like a decision at all. Just placing and leaving it. And we don't need to know why or who. Just the action itself. And then we turn the page slowly, but not too far. Just one page. And we arrive again at the sketch. The oak tree. And here too, we don't rush past it. We might notice something slightly different now. Not the drawing itself changing, but the way it is being met. Perhaps there is a sense of the hand that drew it, sitting, looking outward, not trying to produce something final. Just letting a tree appear through movement. And there is something very quiet in that. Something that doesn't ask to be useful. Just witnessed. And we might find ourselves staying with one part of the drawing. A branch. Or the way the trunk divides. And noticing how easy it is to stay with just one small detail without needing to take in the whole. And that is enough. And then, after some time, we let it be there. And we don't rush forward. We let the attention rest. And maybe drift slightly back to the page before. The lavender again. And this returning is not something we have to do correctly. It happens just when it happens. A gentle revisiting. Like the mind checking something is still here. And it is. Still here. Still simple. Still not asking anything. And now, perhaps, something shifts slightly in the room. Not outside, but in the way attention begins to behave. it may feel a little slower, less inclined to move forward, more willing to stay. And we might notice that we're not reading the book anymore in any usual sense. We're staying with it, like sitting beside it, like it is something we are in relationship with rather than consuming. And in that staying, other pages become less important, not gone, just less urgent. And we might find ourselves returning again to the receipt, that ordinary list of things: bread, thread, ink, simple words that don't seem to carry meaning beyond themselves. And perhaps there is something almost grounding in that ordinariness. The sense that a life once moved through very simple necessities, and that those necessities were enough to shape a day. And we don't need to build a story around it. Just letting it be what it is. And maybe noticing the body again here, how it is sitting or lying, the contact points, the support beneath you. Because sometimes noticing small objects makes it easier to notice yourself again too. Not as a thought, but as sensation. Weight, temperature, stillness. And there might be a brief moment where nothing is being looked at in the book at all. Just a pause that belongs to no page. And in that pause, the book is still open somewhere nearby, but not demanding attention, just available. And after some time, perhaps we return again, not because we need to continue, but because attention naturally wanders back. And this time, maybe the page we find is not important in any new way. It is simply there, a page with faint marks or faded ink, or something that is almost not visible anymore. And we might notice how interesting it is that something can still be present even as it becomes less distinct, not disappearing, just becoming quieter. And there's no need to hold on to it. We can simply meet it as it is and let it be what it is. And now, very gradually, something begins to soften again in the overall sense of staying. Not leaving yet, but no longer needing to search through the book either. Just resting with it open, letting it be part of the room again. The library holding both of us in its quiet way. Firelight continuing, air continuing, time continuing without needing our involvement. And perhaps that is enough for this moment. Just this very simple staying. And perhaps, once again, the book is simply there, resting in awareness, or in the hands, or somewhere between the two. And we might notice how there's no need to immediately open it again. Just being with it closed for a moment. The weight of it, that slightly uneven weight that old books tend to have. Not symmetrical like modern objects. More like it has settled over time into its own shape. And you might notice your hands around it, or near it, or just the idea of holding something that has been held by others across years. There can be something quite quiet in that. Not emotional, just present. And perhaps we allow the cover to be touched again, slowly, without needing to open yet. Just the surface. The leather has a particular feel that is not smooth in a uniform way. There are places where it has softened more than others. Tiny variations that only appear when attention is slow enough to notice them. And maybe there is something about that slowness that begins to shift attention itself. As if attention is learning from the object, noticing how it doesn't rush either. And then, very gently, we open it again, but not fully, just enough just to the first pages. And we don't need to go forward yet. We can stay here at the threshold of the book itself, the place where nothing new has arrived. And perhaps this threshold is the most important part, the place before meaning, before sequence, before what happens next. Just this. And we might notice again the pressed lavender page. And this time, instead of seeing it as an object, we might sense it as a kind of pause inside the book. A pause that someone left behind. A pause that remained. And it can be interesting to stay with that idea for a while, not thinking about it, just noticing what it feels like to be with something that is a pause. And perhaps the body responds to that too. A slight softening, a settling, a reduction in effort, as if something in attention recognizes that it does not need to move quickly here. And we can let that be true. And then returning again to stillness. And now, perhaps, we begin to notice something subtle. The book does not actually require reading. It simply holds attention. And we can stay with that holding without extracting anything from it. Just being near it, like sitting beside something rather than using it. And there may be a sense that this way of being is unfamiliar in a quiet way, not strange, just less practiced. And that noticing itself can be part of the settling. And if we allow attention to widen slightly now, we might become aware again of the library around the book. Not leaving the book, just including more space again. The sense of the room holding us both. The faint warmth in the air. The stillness that feels like it has been here longer than we have. And the book resting within that stillness. And now we don't need to keep moving forward through the pages. We can begin to let the book repeat itself. Not literally, but in attention. We can return to what is already here and notice it again, as if seeing it for the first time. The lavender, the oak sketch, the receipt, and each time we return, something slightly different is felt. Not because the objects have changed, but because attention is not fixed. It shifts, it breathes, it softens, and we can allow that shifting to be part of the experience, not something to correct, just something to notice. And there may be moments now where attention simply rests between objects, not landing on anything in particular, just hovering. And that too is part of the book. The spaces between pages, the pauses, the quiet gaps. And we might notice those gaps are not empty. They are simply unfilled, which is different, and perhaps even more spacious. And we can let this staying deepen now without adding anything new. No new pages, no new discoveries, just the presence of what has already been seen, held a little longer, allowed to soften, allowed to become less sharp in focus, like a field more than a sequence. And if attention drifts away for a moment, that is also part of it. And when it returns, it can simply find the book still here, still open somewhere in awareness, still quiet, still present. At some point, there may be the sense that the book has offered what it needed to offer for now, not as an ending, just as a natural softening. And we might begin to feel the shape of closing it again. Not quickly, very gently, letting the pages fall together, letting the cover come down, noticing the small final sound of that, and placing it back where it belongs, on the shelf, where it continues to exist without needing attention. And there might be a brief glance around the library again, noticing how it remains unchanged, how it does not require anything from us. And perhaps that is what makes it easy to leave. Not because something is finished, but because nothing is unfinished in a way that matters. And so we begin to move back through the room, slowly, through the doorway, into the softer hall beyond, and then the entrance, and then the door, and outside again into the evening. Now a little deeper into night, a little cooler, a little quieter, and there's nothing to carry, nothing to hold, only the gentle after effect of having been somewhere still. And now, as you are back, wherever you're resting, there may be a sense that the body can settle even a little more. Not because anything has been done, but because attention has been somewhere steady for a while. And it can simply stay steady now in its own way. And the day does not need to be revisited or completed or understood. It can simply be allowed to be over. And perhaps sleep is already beginning to approach in its own quiet timing. Not arriving, not forced, just available. And you can let yourself drift now if that's what's happening. Or simply rest. And that is enough for now. If you're already asleep, keep resting. And if you're still awake, that's okay too. You can let this episode play again or move on to the next one. I'll be right here. Good night.